All right, happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to our weekly meeting. I'm Dominic Church, the Regional Director for Canvas K-12 in Virginia. I'm joined today by some of my colleagues, Rachel and Katie and John, are on with us right now. We don't have a huge agenda for you today, really just here to answer any questions that you have, but we do have one thing that Josh wanted to share at the start of our call today. So Josh, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Dominic. Hi, everybody. Josh Perez, Project Manager for Virtual Virginia. And we just sent out this morning our new Virginia Field Admin Urgency Scale and Escalation Guide, which is quite a mouthful. I'm going to drop that in the chat just so you guys can see it. And I can share my screen as well. There we go. And share my screen. Perfect. So this was sent out to all project leads. So whoever the leader of your division is, as far as that goes, they will receive this. We encourage that once you receive it, you can print it out, put it on your wall, have it available for any and all of your admins. And it just gives you a basic layout of what the issue is that you are having and the best way to get the fastest, cleanest results with as little headache as possible. It goes from non-urgent all the way up to emergency. Each one has a definition. So you have a rough idea of, you can match it up with what your issue is and the procedure to follow. There are additional resources at the bottom that you can click on that are wonderfully helpful, as well as what you should include in your support ticket when you're sending them to your Tier 1 support. This is, we've been looking forward to this for a little while now. Now that everybody has Tier 1 support, we can finally roll this out. We just want to make sure everyone has the resources they need to get their answers as quickly as possible. So hopefully this will be very beneficial for everybody. And we're just giving you more resources to achieve your goals. That's all I have for the urgency guide. As far as implementations go, we are moving away from the open door webinars that we've been having. Attendance has been dwindling, and so many of you guys are past your implementation, your system integration phase. So we are repurposing that and focusing very heavily on direct calls. So if you are one of those divisions that are still struggling with your system integration, you can expect a call directly from me if you haven't received one already. And we will try to get you on calls. We're going to try to help you get over that final finish line. We're well into fall start now, so we want to make sure that everybody has at least those steps, and we can move forward and focus on greater things like content strategy and all the wonderful stuff that KC brings to the table. So that's all I had for you today.
Thanks, Josh. Before we move on to kind of general questions at large, are there any specific questions about what Josh shared with that admin urgency scale? If something comes up during our next phase of the meeting, absolutely grab the mic or throw something into the chat and we'll respond to it. But I think that's going to be really helpful for divisions as they figure out where to go, how urgent something is. It's going to allow us to really target our support in the right way. All right, so with that, we are 3 minutes into the call, and it's time for our general chat time. So any questions that anybody has regarding Canvas implementations, adoption, or just questions at large, we're here for you.
And while you're typing your messages or questions in the chat, I would love to just share. I also sent out a quick start training guide. I also did it to just the people I had listed. Josh, who was it?
Project leads.
Thank you, project leads. Thank you very much. So I sent that out. I will drop it in the chat window as well so that you have it in case you are not one of the project leads. I have also shared it with all of the teachers in the workshops and the leaders last week. So this is a great doc that will allow you to, if your teachers are ready for some training and they want to do some training on their own, some self-paced training, but then it also links to the workshop that the workshop document as well. So that's all I had. Thanks.
Thanks, Casey. We do have a couple of questions that have popped up so far. Carissa is at Lancaster Division having some sys issues. Josh, Jaron, do you guys have anything that you can help out with there?
I'll have to take a look at it. I don't know exactly at this point.
All right, we'll circle back to that to give some direct support for sure. Lucy asks about EPUB versus course downloads. We addressed this a little bit last week, but just kind of give an overview. We've gotten to the point where divisions have the option to choose either or. Virtual Virginia content and the folks at Virtual Virginia have determined that the HTML downloads are a better method for their content, but we do know that there are some devices where that's not working well, like Chromebooks or whatnot. And so you do have the option to flip between the EPUBs or the HTML downloads, and we can show you how to make that choice in just a moment. I don't know if Rachel, you want to kind of cue that up for something that we can show everyone. Emily asks about mastery paths. Do we have an update on that? Jaron, Josh, I'm going to pitch that back to you because I don't know where we're at on the mastery paths discussion.
We have enabled at the consortium level for anybody who wants mastery paths to access it now. So
you need to turn it on your individual division level under feature options. Set it to allow them to do it. Turn it on for everyone to have it, basically.
All right, so an admin at the division level needs to go into the feature options behind that admin panel and choose either allow or on, depending on how you want to deploy it. Like Jaron just said, if it's on allow, people can opt into it at the course level. If it's on, it's enabled for everybody across the entire instance. Let's see. Robin in Highland County asks, how often will the ZIS update Canvas?
So it's not necessarily the ZIS, but we will be pulling from PowerSchool on a nightly basis. That's as frequent as we could be able to get on it. But we'll basically, what we'll do is pull your data from PowerSchool, compare it to what we've currently been receiving, and then basically send the differences into Canvas from there. So it'll be a nightly basis that it'll do it. Sounds like yours hasn't updated since August 21, so we'll take a look at that one. I apologize. I am a human and have sometimes misplaced putting the schedules on for people. So I'll go check that out right now.
All right, fantastic. So Lucy followed up with the EPUB versus the download. What does it actually look like for students on their end? We probably can demo that.
Yeah, I think I can get there. I'm working on getting some screens set up for us right now. But thank you for that clarification, Lucy. That helps me understand what direction to head in for this. So
awesome. As soon as you're ready, Rachel, let us know. I'll continue on the questions. Kristen asks, at the elementary level, teachers have standalone courses, homeroom, math, science, social studies, language arts. She was thinking of pushing the content into the homeroom course since it comes as a complete course packet from Virtual Virginia. What's the recommendation? Do we need to cross-list? They're not going to be sharing data back from their SIS into PowerSchool at this time. And all the same students are in every single one of those sections. Casey, this sounds like a question that you might be able to have an opinion on.
I have opinions. Yeah, so best practices is one thing to think about. I think it has a lot to do with how you want to train your students to access the information, Kristen. You can do the homeroom idea and then have everything kind of link into that. But really, one of the ways to do it, I have found, is to just do the dashboard and train your students to go to the dashboard, make sure that they star the right ones, and do it that way. So you don't necessarily have to cross-list, which I think is, once you cross-list, you can't go back. So you have to stay in cross-listing for the entire year. And if you can avoid it, I think you don't have to. You and I could talk a little bit further, and I could take a look at your screens, but I know that was a roundabout answer that didn't really give you the answer you probably wanted. I think we would need to talk a little bit more face-to-face, maybe.
Can we talk after this meeting, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or sometime today, because I'm trying to do a push to get it out to our teachers by tomorrow.
Yes. You have the VBA help email?
Maybe.
VBAhelp@instructure.com, and then I will get in there and I'll send you some times that we can meet. It might have to be later today.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, looks like Rachel is ready.
All right. So I just wanted to give us context before we look at the two offline options, what Canvas Online looks like, because that helps to kind of set the stage for what the difference would look like. So this is the modules view. This is where content gets organized. This is you know, the structure in which the VBA content comes over into Commons. So this is what it looks like when I'm connected, I'm online, and I have an internet connection. If I do the HTML version for offline content, I have this button here that allows me to export the course content. You can see the last export was just a few moments ago. This is what that looks like. So it looks very similar visually to what the online version of Canvas looks like. Any items that I had previously completed is captured in that export package, and I can go to a piece of content. This has an external video, which is why that's not showing for me, but that I think most of the content has been designed in such a way that those videos would play because they would be local, unlike this example that I have here. Now, alternately, if you're using an EPUB, and really the only reason why I would think that you would use an EPUB is if you were using mobile devices. The HTML version is what VBA has optimized their content for and has tested against. But if you are on a mobile device and need to use an EPUB, this is what that looks like. So this looks more like what an ebook looks like, more like if you were to buy a digital version of a novel, let's say from Kindle, that's what this experience is. And so I can still, you know, navigate through my content as I'm arrowing here. I have a video that will play. Any of my assignments and their instructions will be here. I can see due dates of things, how many points they are, how I'm going to submit to that assignment. So those are the two offline options, the latter being probably what you would use more for mobile devices, and the HTML version in all other cases. I hope that that helps to clarify.
Thanks, Rachel. Maria asks, if students log in on one course and not another, will the log time show when they logged into Canvas or the time that they logged into the course? I believe we've got reports that will allow for both. Rachel, you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm digging into this pretty deeply with one of your neighbors. So there are data points for both, as Dominic just said. The last user access will capture when they log into Canvas. The last course access will capture when they log into a specific course. So there's a difference on those two reports. So the question is, are you just looking to see, is a student logging into Canvas and going nowhere else? Or are you trying to track if the student is logging into a specific course? Oftentimes attendance is course-based, which is why the course user access report is a lot of times used for online attendance. But if you're just needing to ensure that a student has accessed Canvas at least once in the day, then the user access report might work well for you.
Thank you. Nicole says their division starts on Monday. When will student logins be functional? Nicole, do we know Nicole's division yet? Middlesex. Josh, Jaron, what's the status on their authentication with students?
Right now, we're struggling to connect to PowerSchool SIF for you guys. That's as much as I know off the top of my head. I don't know if we've actually been able to send students into Canvas at this point just because of that. So I don't think they're actually set up. If I'm remembering correctly, we've been going back and forth, trying to remember your tech consultant's name. But they're working directly with PowerSchool at this point. We've gone back and forth about 5 emails back and forth on this. So they're not set up at this moment. But authentication-wise, let me double check. you do have Google SAML set up. So once we get all those emails, or once we get those students set up properly, they're going to basically just be using Google authentication. As long as they're signed into Google, then they'll sign into Canvas is basically how the Google SAML works.
All right, but we'll definitely follow up knowing that students are coming in on Monday. We want to make sure that you're ready to rock and roll for that.
Yes,
Thanks,
Nicole,
Bob.
actually, I'll probably be sending you an email so we set up a meeting so we can talk after this, either today or tomorrow. We're trying to reach out to everybody who's in that phase 3. We want to make sure that you have a chance to talk with us. We can walk through whatever the expectations will be.
All right, Christy asks, how long does it take to see students who are new to our district? Do we add them or wait for them to sync? PowerSchool is the SIS. I can share a little bit. Do not add people directly to Canvas if you're using any sort of a SIS integration. So once they get added to PowerSchool on that nightly update, they should get added to Canvas the next day. As far as authentication goes, like however quickly they get into your authentication method, that's how quickly they're going to be able to log in to Canvas. But I would not go and manually add students to your SIS generated courses because they probably won't line up just right.
Dominic, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jaren, on this topic.
Just make sure that the login is set up properly for each of the users. That's just kind of a big global general thing. Canvas requires to have a login to be able to be set up in Canvas. Obviously, if you just set up somebody without a login ID, they're going to be useless in Canvas. So every single person has something different for their login ID specifically. For you, Christy, it's email. So make sure they've actually got an email set up on the PowerSchool side. Otherwise, they can't be created in Canvas specifically. But that's just a good global thing to know. We won't create anybody unless there's that specific login for that person. Sorry, Rachel, on to you.
No, I just had a follow-up question. Somebody was asking me about the last user access and the the user course access log, and asked if they can be accessed at the district level. And yes, that they are district level reports, to begin with. And so if you come to your admin area of Canvas, select your division name here, then you'll come to settings here on the left-hand side. You'll select reports, and this is where you have access to the last user access report, which is, just accessing Canvas generically, or anything in Canvas for that matter. User course access log is course specific, and if you're curious about the data that gets captured, you can actually click on the little question mark here. You can see the headers that are included in that on both of those. So as you can see, the second report that I just previewed, the user course access log, does have quite a lot more detail related to like the content that they're viewing, the type of content it is, are they viewing versus participating, and things like that. Those are also pullable by the API. I know that might not be the first list the first thing on everybody's to-do list, but depending on the audience of who's asking, they can be pulled via the API if needed.
Awesome. Carissa asks about Casey's principals course, and I noticed Casey answered a little bit later that she's working on it, trying to build it by this week so that we can get our school admins trained up on how to use Canvas and leverage it to help their daily work. Let's see. Tony asks, is there any school district in Virginia or elsewhere that we could contact about Synergy, SIS, and Canvas integration? They're having some issues. Off the top of my head, Stafford, Prince William County, Chesterfield are Synergy Canvas users. Jaren or Josh, you might have a couple of others that you could refer them to.
Sorry, I missed what this list was about.
Synergy Canvas users in Virginia that we can point to that have a good, that actually have the data going back and forth correctly.
We've been not any amazing resources at this moment, unfortunately.
All right, send us a message to VVA Help and we'll see. I definitely know we've got some divisions in Virginia that use Synergy, and
We
I
have some
know,
outside of Virginia as well.
yeah.
We've got plenty of them working. Nobody currently within Virginia is working very successfully, unfortunately.
Hey, Jay Cook from Stafford just popped in the chat that anybody can reach out to them. So
Yeah. Stafford has figured out for the most part. We're having another hiccup at this moment, but everything else is looking fine.
Awesome. We love having Jay as a resource there. They've been working that synergy connection for a little bit here. Maria asks, if a teacher has 2 courses in one class, there will be 2 Canvas sections. That's correct. So we've got an example where like pre-algebra, algebra 2 trig and honors algebra 2 trig are both in the same class together. If the teacher wants to hold a synchronous class with all students, can't do it because they're separated into different sections. What's the workaround? If you cross list, can Big Blue Button be used with both sections at the same time? I believe the answer to that question is yes. If you cross list, you can have all of those students access one Big Blue Button conference.
yeah, because they're essentially on the same roster at that point after you cross list.
Yep, and that would be the only way that you could do that with Big Blue Button. Lucy, I think referring back to that HTML export, she doesn't see the button for the download course. Rachel, do you want to show how to flip that on?
Yep. All right, so if you don't see that export button in modules, you want to make sure that you have this option selected here. Allow students to download course content and view offline. That button is what enables the button within modules.
Important to note, if you tick that, you lose the ability to download EPUBs.
Yes, this may go without saying, but if you make this selection, make sure you scroll all the way down to the bottom and click Update Settings. That is an important detail as well.
That is indeed an important detail. Let's see, a couple of comments that seem to be responding to previous messages. Then we get to Emily asks about getting some messages on Chromebooks that are in student hands. Your browser doesn't meet the minimum requirements for Canvas. Are they going to run into Canvas issues for students with Chromebooks that are older? Chances are they just need to restart their Chromebooks because Chromebooks do update themselves, but they do need to be restarted to have that happen. I don't know what a Chromebook's lifespan is, how late, what version of Chrome they're able to update to, but I've got some pretty old Chromebooks here at the house and they're on the most recent version of Chrome, but that's my guess. They just need to update their Chromebooks. Because we officially support the latest 2 versions of Chrome and Safari and Firefox, right?
Yep, that's correct.
All right, Carissa asks, can someone please explain groups? Thinking about having a group with special ed students in one section, can teachers assign a modified assignment to all those kids in a group without having to click each individual student?
Sure, I can talk about groups. Again, let me just get to a place where I can. All right, I think I got there relatively quickly. Okay, so yes, you can divide your students into groups. You can do different group sets, so you might have different groups for different reasons. So I can add a group set here. You can call that what you want. Something that's very important to know about course level groups is students know their group name. So be aware, especially if you're thinking about using this functionality for special ed reasons, just be very cognizant to how you are naming these groups because students are aware of that. Groups is also a collaborative space. So once I have been assigned to a group, I also know the other students who are in that group. So again, these are just things to be aware of when you are using groups. That being said, then yes, that does give you the ability to differentiate and assign assignments just to students within those groups. Sections might be a better, I'm just trying to think, there's going to be a ramification for grade pass back based on sections. I'm just thinking about the special ed use case specifically, and just being mindful again about how we're naming that, and students possibly seeing other users within those sections or groups. And so that's just something to be aware of. Now, that all being said, you can absolutely add students to those groups however you would like to. I can come to an assignment, and we'll just kind of take a look here at how I have the ability to differentiate assignments based on sections, groups, and individual students. So here I have an assignment that is set up. If I want to assign this to a specific section, all that I need to do is make that selection, and I can assign that to a due date. Only the students in this section receive or are aware of that assignment. If I want to assign something to just an individual student, I can do that with a due date. Something to be aware of here is we pass grades back to student information systems based on section. So if you remove the section or the course, then that would impact grade pass back. So you can't pass a single grade for one student back to PowerSchool or your SIS, because SISs generally don't understand the concept of individualized assignments. So just be aware, it can absolutely be done in order to accommodate a student, because we of course want to give students the resources that they need, but it could impact grade pass back. So just be aware of that. And now the final use case, if you want to assign this to a group of students where you've used the group functionality, you will need to toggle on that this is a group assignment and indicate what group that is. And then once you've done that, in this case, I have my lab groups, those have appeared, and I can assign this just to a lab group. So I hope that that helps with groups.
And then just a little bit of clarification, Rachel, while you still have that up. You know, back when I was administering Canvas, one of the reasons why you might choose a section over a group is a group gives students some ability to create pages and things like that within Canvas, versus if they're just a member of a section, you can use that for specifically differentiating. And another thing to consider is that students can be part of multiple sections, right? They can be in period 2, but you can also assign them to a section within a section. So that's something to consider. If they don't need all of the functionality that comes with a group, you might get away with just adding them to their own section.
Yeah, so this is what it looks like for me as a student, as far as being in a group. So you can see that there are discussions that are specific to this group. Groups were designed with the intention of collaboration in mind, whereas sections are, you know, a more of an administrative way to group students versus create a collaborative space for them.
Let's see. We've answered a couple of questions. Carissa asks, Josh is reaching out directly to Carissa on the overnight sync. Lucy mentioned when they do download that zip file, there's nothing in it.
Yeah, so first of all, we would want to make sure that there's content in the modules. If you're running into issues beyond that, those individual use cases are really things that our support team is best positioned to answer. They can look at the specific course, they can look at the specific user. Those very specific questions are, and again, this kind of goes back to the document that Josh shared earlier, are really best positioned to be answered by the support team.
All right, so Lucy says they've tried multiple courses, multiple users. Yeah, put in a ticket, but also reach out to Virtual Virginia, VVA help at instructure.com, and we can take a look as well if that's been ongoing. Something to consider, the modules have to be published, the course has to be published, the individual items have to be published, otherwise they don't show up in that download either. Let's see. Maria asks, we've not given access to students in our district yet. Am I correct that parents will not have access to the app or website unless they have an access code to add a student? Student access, then parent observer access. I think that is generally the recommended order to get our parents in. Once the students have access, they'll be able to generate that code, or the teacher could generate a code for them and then share that with the parents to make the connection. Christy asks, how often does PowerSchool sync with Canvas? We've got new students that aren't showing up in Canvas yet. Is it possible to create them an account or wait until the sync happens? I think most divisions have it set up for nightly. Josh, do you want to, or Jaron, do you want to speak a little bit more to that?
That is correct. Yeah, it's everyone's set up for a nightly sync unless you've told us otherwise.
Yep.
Is there
Same sort of deal. Yeah, I'm working with Christy directly on this one right now as well. Just same sort of deal, making sure they have a login ID, whether that's your email or whatever field they're pulling for their login is key for it.
All right. Gary asks about Schoology content. Anybody from Virtual Virginia want to speak to how to get your content into a competing learning management system?
Hi, everybody. I'll jump in from the Virtual Virginia side. We are working with a migration team on the Schoology side to bring some content over. And so I would recommend that you talk with your Schoology CSM for details about when those will be available and how.
All right. And then Lucy, maybe, one of us will take a look at your division's instance to see what's going on with your HTML downloads. Let's see. Maria says, we've got a block on Vimeo videos on our filter. Are there any other student help videos available that we can link to from the website? Yeah, our guides do kind of rely on Vimeo, right? But do we have a fallback? I'm not positive.
Not to my knowledge. No, I mean, sometimes we can work with the network administrators on the filter specifically that is dependent on the appliance specifically, but sometimes those filters can be set up to understand the source of that video, and if it's embedded, let's say within Canvas or within one of our URLs, sometimes the filter can allow access to that, but generally speaking, I'm not aware. I know that some content is starting to be leveraged using Studio, but we'd have to check with our community team to see if what the status on that is. But I don't believe that there's a place that you can go for a secondary set of guides that don't use Vimeo.
But yeah, send us a message because there may be, we're just not aware. And we can look into that. We'll bring in somebody from the support team to find out if they've got an alternative to districts, to Vimeo for districts that are specifically blocking that. Erin asks, can you explain exactly what happens to the teacher's courses when an admin updates a Blueprint course? She's read some things and some cautionary tales with Blueprint courses, and they want to make sure that they know exactly what's going to happen, that the teachers can edit, and what things will or might not get overwritten.
Okay, I can tackle this one for us. Okay, so if you Blueprint content, and a teacher has not modified that content, and students, if it's an assignment or a quiz and students haven't submitted to it, then the Blueprint will override that content. If a teacher has edited that content because you've allowed them access to do so, then a copy of that content will be sent to that teacher's course, and then they can decide to unpublish their pre-existing resource and use yours instead, and have that option. That is a primary reason why you may want to lock some content for updates or not, based on how you're leveraging the content and if you're allowing teachers to edit it. If students have submitted to those assignments, then again, a copy will be delivered by that blueprint. So the easiest way to think about this is if no modifications have been made either by the teacher or submissions by the student, then it will get updated and replaced. If anything has been modified about that resource, teacher driven or student submission related, then a copy will be delivered to that teacher's course.
Rachel, Maria has a follow-up. That's a really good question. If the blueprint is put out before the courses are published, will it delete anything in the course that the teacher has created?
No, it will not.
All right, so, well, that's good news that we're not trashing people's stuff.
Yep, nope, we are not.
The things that we work hard on. Any other questions? We've got a few minutes here. Aaron asks, is that true for the homepage as well? Do we overwrite what the homepage is when we push out a blueprint?
No. So what will happen is if you push out a blueprint with a homepage that is different than what the teacher has created, in their pages, they will have the home page that was a part of your blueprint. And then all that they would need to do is modify the ability to change the front page, but it should not overwrite their home page, to my knowledge. I believe yours would be secondary to the one that's currently set.
So on the flip side, if you wanted to push out a common homepage and ensure that your teachers were using it, you'd have to do some sort of a virtual walkthrough to ensure that they use that page and not the Bitmoji classroom or whatever they had created earlier.
Well, that's an interesting follow-up question because somebody said like a Bitmoji.
I saw that. Let's see. Kristen also asked prior to that last question, will the ordering of teachers' modules remain the same in their course when it's synced with the blueprint?
They should. My experience tells me that the blueprint will stack below the current content that's in there. That has been my experience.
All right, Kathy asks about any instructions that we have about whitelisting so that we can get Vimeo to work. If we've got any resources, we can push that out to your division, and perhaps that's a worthwhile message to send out to everyone, especially allowing that most of our guides rely on Vimeo videos. We may want to push that information out to everyone. Let's see, any other questions? If you want to take the microphone and share your thoughts with us.
Yeah, so Dominic, this is Jay Cook, Stafford. The Khajiit Wi-Fi hotspots that, you know, everybody is like buying up these days, it blocks Vimeo. That's a big, and it's no way to unblock it that we've been able to determine, because it's technically a streaming service. So that's going to be a big problem. We can unblock it in our filter, our main filter, but nobody's actually in the building, so that doesn't really help a whole lot. So that's just a consideration. If you guys had another platform, hint YouTube, that you could populate those videos on.
So you were saying your Wi-Fi, the hotspots that you've given out are blocking Vimeo?
Yeah.
All right, yeah, we'll definitely follow up with the support team to find out if there's an alternative format that we can share with everyone.
The model, it's a filtered hotspot by Khajiit, K-A-J-E-E-T. So that's the, I don't know how many other people use it, but we got like 1,000 of the dang things.
Gotcha, I'm looking those up now. And so they are basically from the company are blocking Vimeo. Got it. No matter what, my ring goes off in the midst of one of these things. Loud, and you can't make it stop. Well, if there's no other questions, we can give you back 20 minutes in your Tuesday, that's for sure. Always remember, we've got the VBA help at instructure.com. As Josh mentioned earlier, we're pivoting away from the Monday, Friday implementation meetings and moving towards a direct district support model with Josh, Jaron, and Casey to address any specific issues divisions are having, but then also to move more towards how do we actually support adoption and not just getting the lights turned on with Canvas, but really leveraging Canvas to make some impactful changes to student achievement and student learning in both the virtual, as we move back to a blended or hybrid, and then face-to-face model. How can Canvas be there for you? So if there's no other questions, we'll cut it short. I'll share the recording with my friends at Virtual Virginia and VSTE, and so you can find those on the VSTE YouTube channel. But in the meantime, we'll see you all next Tuesday. Have a great week, everyone.